Ken Trahan along with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review brought to you by First NBC Bank with 31 locations throughout South Louisiana and growing. First NBC Bank. Well, the Hornets are back in action this weekend on the road, Saturday at home, Sunday Memphis, and then Portland are the opponents. And right now it's kind of a head-scratching situation when you look at what transpired. In their last two games, Lenny at home, this is a well-rested team facing a poor Orlando team at home, had a 17-point lead in the third quarter, lost the lead, lost the game to a bad team despite being well-rested against a team that was playing back-to-back, and that was inexcusable. And then fast forward 2 nights, and the Lakers are in town. And I know they're the Lakers, but they're a 500 team. You've got a 25-point lead in the second quarter. You've got a 21-point lead in the third quarter, an 18-point lead going to the final quarter, and you lose to another team that was playing the second of a back-to-back, and an older team at that. What gives?
It's a great question, but I think when we get to like the last minute and a half of this video, we got to make sure we're strong and we know how to finish up, unlike what we've seen this week at New Orleans Arena. So it's really head scratching and not a real explanation for it. It needs to be a learning point for Monty Williams and this team that you've got to learn how to finish games. You've got to bring the same energy, and the same effort that you brought in the first, second, and third quarters into the fourth quarter and be able to finish a game. You thought in both cases those games are over. I'm watching the game Wednesday night. I'm thinking Kobe Bryant's not going to play the fourth quarter in this game. He's, it's the second half of a back-to-back. The guy's in his mid-30s. The game seems well in hand. And what happens? He stays out there. He takes over the fourth quarter, 42 points, 12 assists, an unbelievable performance, and leads his team back to victory.
Yeah, it's really hard to comprehend. And Monty Williams is 3 years on the job, so the maturity level certainly has to be there to understand how to run a team and coach in this league. Players are young, and I get that. And as I wrote in my blog on the site, I think the responsibility of blowing these two games lies with both the players and the coach. There were some interesting moves or lack of moves that were made in these games that certainly point to that. When you're struggling to defend and struggling to score, you might want to try something else. Eric Gordon came in with 6:22 to play against the Lakers, did not score the rest of the way, went 0 for 4. Second straight game, he did not score in the fourth quarter. He's supposed to be your closer. But where was Anthony Davis? Did not play in the fourth quarter against the Lakers until the final 25 seconds of the game. And I just have a hard time with that, Lenny, when you look at the situation. I know Ryan Anderson plays the 4 spot, and he's a good player. And I know Dwight Howard is big and would be a tough cover for Anthony Davis. But this is a team that has its biggest asset on the bench for all the fourth quarter. He's healthy, as far as we know. And this is a growing process, a maturity, a development issue. And you're not going anywhere. He's got to be on the floor at some point.
I agree. I mean, it's again, you're 21 and 41 right now, and you got 20 games left, 10 at home, 10 on the road, and you got to give this guy a chance to learn to be in a key, in a key spot late in the game. Have him out there, And the fact of the matter is, the Hornets gave up 33 in the fourth quarter last night. Yes, they only scored 9. Maybe Davis isn't your best offensive option out there, although he's a pretty good one. But all those times attacking the rim, you got that guy right there. I think people are going to think twice about attacking the rim because he is the one guy that could be a game changer at the rim for you.
No question about it, and it's not as though he wasn't productive. He scored 13 points. He had 6 rebounds and blocked a couple of shots in just 17 minutes played, was not in foul trouble. This was all coach's decision. So we never know everything that goes on inside of a team, and you qualify it in that respect. But at the same time, you and I both agreed, if this was a team that was a winning team going to the playoffs, you play to win, you don't worry about the young player. But in this situation, the young player has to learn. He's got to be on the floor.
And in all likelihood, he's one of your 5 best players. And if you would,
safe to say.
Yeah, and when you get to crunch time, don't you want your 5 best players on the floor? Yeah. Goes without saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and it's not as though he and Anderson haven't played together on many occasions this year. They have, even though they both play the 4 spot. College baseball, LSU, of course, beating people on a regular basis, and they get a series this weekend against a team, frankly, that they should beat, some games against teams they should beat, and then Tulane, frankly, gets a team they should beat this weekend as well.
Yeah, LSU with Washington, this is probably a little bit of a step up in terms of weekend competition, but still a team coming down here, probably hasn't been outside or certainly in dry weather a lot, coming in from Seattle. You would think they stand a pretty good chance, although I will say this, the Pac-10 might be the best league in the country this year, from at least early on. The West Coast is playing a terrific brand of baseball in the early going. Tulane's at home. They've got High Point. Again, these are two series that the home teams should win. Tulane's got one more week of non-conference after this. This is LSU's last weekend tune-up before they start SEC play next week against Mississippi State.
Yeah, Tulane's got to win those midweek games. They lost 1 of 2 to Northwestern State. Can't happen at home, so they continue to have some ongoing issues. College basketball, both LSU and Tulane just hanging around that 500 mark. Tulane, a tough loss a couple of nights ago. LSU still there. We talked about Carmouche playing well for the LSU Tigers of late, which is a good sign. And again, they're going to be fine, and they're still hovering around that mark where they're under consideration for a postseason bid.
Yeah, this Saturday home finale against Ole Miss, it's huge for both teams. Ole Miss still harbors NCAA hopes. I think if LSU wins the game on Saturday and doesn't just embarrass themselves in the SEC tournament, they may, with this late season play, have postured themselves in a position to be in the NIT. Mm-hmm. Tulane, I think their postseason hopes are pretty much dashed. I think there was some talk they can end up in one of the consolation tournaments, if you will. But I mean, short of a run all the way to the championship and to a championship in Conference USA, I think their season will be over next week.
High school state basketball championships continuing. You can follow on our website at sportsnola.com everything that's happening in Monroe as we're staffed, and I know you'll be interested to see what happens over the weekend in Monroe. And, of course, we'll see what happens moving forward with this tournament as to where it will be next year and the format changing back, and all of that remains to be seen. And where the Saints are concerned, all quiet on the Western Front, at least for the time being.
For the time being. Now, Saturday it's going to change. And interesting story coming out of Boston, that this new thing that the NFL has put out there. Free agency doesn't start until Tuesday, but you have the ability to start negotiating with free agents, talking to agents on Saturday. So it's like a 72-hour window before free agency starts. This thing was really going on anyway, but now the NFL has actually defined it in a new collective bargaining agreement that you can do this. So you're going to hear news starting as soon as Saturday about, this one's in talks with this team. You can't go visit them until Tuesday, but still in all, there's going to be talks going on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's just more of an excuse to get the NFL in the news.
No question. Lenny, have a great weekend.
Hey, we'll see you next Monday.
And that's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 31 locations throughout South Louisiana. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. God bless you one and all. Have a great weekend.